Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness!
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7 tenths remaining. Conley now with 3. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took exception.
Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! John Morant! Insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm joined once again, like I am about once a month, by Chris Herrington. Chris, how are you?
What's up? Are you coming to Memphis?
I'm coming to Memphis on
Excellent.
the plan is game 1. I am not going to stay in Memphis for 4 days or 3 days until Wednesday. I'm not coming back on Wednesday, but here's the thing. I'm going to LA. So
Me too.
Dude, which games are you going 3 and 4?
I am.
I mean, the schedule with the Saturday night Monday, I'm like, this feels like once in a lifetime. We get to play, obviously. Yeah. I mean, this is, if they were playing the Kings, I don't think I'd be there. Or if they were playing, I don't know who it is. But I'm like, this is, if I can go see LeBron James in one of his final good seasons, maybe. I mean, maybe he'll still be playing in 5 years. Yeah. But it feels like a once in a lifetime type thing. And so, yeah, I'm going.
I'm going for 3 and 4. If there's a game 6, I probably will not be there for that.
Right.
But I am going for games 3 and 4.
Well, here's the thing. If there's a game 6, or if the Grizzlies take care of business, am I going to travel to the next one? Like, I'm just going to keep losing. It's going to cost me a lot of money. This comes out of the show budget. I'm going to have to cut back on set design and production costs. I didn't budget for this, is what I'm saying, Chris.
My travel's expense, so I don't have to worry about that. I just have to worry about whether I get approval to go or not. So
exactly.
That's to be determined.
Well, so I'm the one giving approval for me.
Right.
So it's I don't, yeah. It's the joy, I guess, the fun of the playoffs. So this matchup, it's a very sexy matchup between the Grizzlies and the Lakers. I think Grizzlies fans, I feel like we're used to being disrespected. I also feel like some Grizzlies fans, maybe not me personally, but I feel like a lot of Grizzlies fans, it's kind of an identity to have this like constant state of disrespect, maybe, of like, why won't we get the recognition we deserve? Is that a fair characterization, or have I gone too far?
Oh, I think fan bases tend to be like that. I think from a team perspective, and I don't know if they would probably never say this, but it's probably a slightly more comfortable place to not be an overwhelming favorite to win a playoff series, right?
Right.
Even though you're the 2 seed, for it to feel like more of a toss-up kind of series probably is a better place to be, you know, in terms of your mentality or approach. It's probably a more comfortable place to be, I would guess. And, you know, there's a lot of consternation about the award stuff. Of course, we're going to look up and Jaren's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, it is a weird situation where, they're the 2 seed, but like their 2 best players have both played like 60 games and each has a very different, like, related issue that makes people like scratch their heads a little bit. Right. And so it, like, you know, if I see like no Grizzlies on an all NBA ballot, I shrug at that. That seems okay. I might, if I had a ballot, I don't know if I'd have any Grizzlies on there, you know?
Right. That's the thing, where there's all very reasonable explanations for most of these award things. I mean, early in the year, I was poking a lot of fun, and we talked about this before, like the Ringers top 100 list, where like, it was Bane and Ja and Jaren, but none of them were playing. And yet the Grizzlies had the second best record in the West. And I was like, is it a mystery to these people how the Grizzlies win games? And some of this has kind of bled over to like Coach of the Year discussion, where I've seen a lot of consternation where it's like, why isn't Taylor Jenkins finishing top 5 the Coach of the Year? You're like, well, because we won 56 games last year. That's just how Coach of the Year stuff works. It's like, it's not a reflection of who's the best coach. Greg Popovich basically got ignored every single year. It's always the narrative storyline. Mike Brown's clearly going to win. And beyond that, it's like you're just arguing over placing, and I don't know. I can't get worked up over it.
I do think Taylor Jenkins should be more involved in that discussion. But if you want to look at it the other way, they had a 5-game regression from last year, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't hit the preseason win total over under whatever projection until like the last week of the season. You're not going to win the Coach of the Year usually. It's that simple. But this matchup, is one where everyone, or a lot of people, a lot of media people are going to pick the Lakers. And the Grizzlies are favorites in Vegas, but not huge favorites. I think they're like minus 130 betting favorites, which is not a lot. And so I am in a weird spot where maybe I've been really pessimistic about the Grizzlies since the Steven Adams injury, and nothing that they've done on the court since the Steven Adams injury, including a nice little win streak, ever made me change my mind. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen us be good consistently since this has happened. But also, I've been doubting the Lakers basically all year. So I'm in a weird spot where I'm like, I don't really believe in either one of these teams. What is am I being too pessimistic about our Grizzlies team / what are your general feelings about this matchup?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your prediction is. And not that whatever predictions, who cares? Like I wrote 2,300 words, and the last 3 words are prediction. And those are the 3 words I care least about of the 2,300 I wrote.
Yeah.
I think I believe in the offensive change that's happened. Yeah. I know it's a smaller sample, and I know the schedule has not been super tough. I believe in some of the offensive change that's happened with the Grizzlies around the combination of adding Kennard and Jaren's step forward. I think has made a real change to the Grizzlies as a half court offense. They were the 23rd half court offense last season. They were something like that most of this season. Since the trade deadline, they were 11th. Again, There's some scheduling stuff there. But I do believe there's been some fundamental change in terms of the Grizzlies' ability to score and their shooting, the quality of shooting they put on the floor and the spacing they put on the floor. I do believe that's real, and I believe it is relevant to this series. I think there's some things about this matchup I like, but I think the Lakers are particularly well suited to take advantage of the dual absence of Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. And I'm very concerned about Anthony Davis in this series.
Yeah.
I think, my 2 biggest concerns about the Grizzlies are sibling concerns. They're both related to front court physicality. One is fouls and one is rebounds. And it's those 2 things. And I worry about Anthony Davis wreaking havoc on both fronts, getting guys in foul trouble and just dominating the glass. And that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. One of the stats that I was a little bit surprised about when I dug into it was that the Grizzlies points per possession in the half court been pretty solid recently. And that's obviously a thing we've highlighted all year, talked about it all year, talked about it coming into the year. Like, this is an area of concern. They talked about it in their offseason. Like, this is a way we have to improve. And then you talk about the offensive changes post trade deadline, also post Steven Adams injury. The Grizzlies are, I believe it was 7th in 3-pointers made per game. And still some of that, I'm like, we played the Rockets so many times.
Yep.
And so it's like, I don't know how much of that is that meaningful?
Well, to me, this is one of the real questions. The Grizzlies' 3-point offense has been very good post-trade deadline.
Yeah.
Small sample, weaker schedule. The Lakers' 3-point defense has been very good post-trade deadline. Smaller sample, weaker schedule. Which do you believe in more? Which is going to hold up more? I actually think, because shooting tends to fluctuate. But Bane and Kennard are legit 2 of the best pure shooters in the league. Yeah. Like Jaren, I don't know. Dylan, I don't know. But like Bane and Kennard are that good as shooters. I tend to think the Grizzlies' positive shooting improvement is less luck driven than the Lakers' 3-point defense has been post trade deadline. They're 4th. Lakers are 4th in opponent 3-point percentage, and that's driven a lot of their number 1 defense post trade deadline. I think there's a lot of just good luck from other teams' bad shooting in that math.
Yeah, there was a good Ringer article by Zach Cram, I believe it was yesterday, talking about the holes of, one of my favorite obsessions, lineup data, and just like how much 3-point shooting variance can change these things. And a lot of the good Lakers stats, including a Lakers stat I uncovered doing my first Grizzlies Lakers preview, was just like the net rating with LeBron and AD and any of their other top 10 of the rotation. It's plus 20 points better than their opponent per 100 possessions. Now, some of that I don't feel like a small sample size, because like when the stats surprise me, I'm like, oh, okay. When I'm like, hey, you know what? AD and LeBron together, that should be good, as long as you're not playing absolutely terrible players alongside them. So then, but then again, this Zach Cram article specifically mentioned this year how the Lakers have had some pretty huge 3-point shooting luck, where they're shooting really well from 3 and their opponents have not. So that's kind of calmed me down a little bit. Speaking to the Grizzlies having 2 elite shooters, of all players in NBA history who've taken at least who've taken at least 50 3-pointers in the playoffs. I'm going to do the less arbitrarily defined one that I did on Twitter for propaganda retweets and likes. It just all players who've taken 50 playoff threes. Desmond Bane is second all time in 3-point percentage at 49%, and Luke Kennard is 8th. So like those guys can shoot, and we hope they will be consistent and it'll carry over this post trade deadline 3-point shooting. I mean, last year after the trade deadline, Grizzlies killed everybody, made tons of threes. It was like the same thing.
Right.
They didn't change their roster. We had Melton making 4 threes a game, like 6 or 7 or 8 straight games in a row. They averaged almost 13 made threes post trade deadline last year. Then we get to the postseason, and it's all of a sudden like, all right, this is not a strength of ours. It was more of a regular season mirage. So a lot of that still kind of feeds into I don't know if I trust anything that happens in March and April in the NBA.
No, I agree with that. But again, I think the shooting skill for those two guys is proven skill.
Yes.
Good shooters. I mean, a couple of years ago, Desmond Bane went like 0 for 17 in a stretch. So you never count on that. But those guys are proven shooters. And to your point, they've done it in the playoffs. And I had not looked at the context of where that ranked, but in my preview, I did note, Desmond Bane, 49% career playoff 3-point shooter now in 17 games. Like, he's done this. And I think the Lakers matchup, while I have concerns in the front court, in terms of the fouling, in terms of the rebounding, I think when you shift to the backcourt area, I think they're going to have a hard time containing a John Morant, Desmond Bane backcourt. And I think this is a series where Luke Kennard's deficiencies are not going to be exposed as much as they might in other matchups. I'm not as worried about him getting hunted the way I might in some other matchups. Against the Golden State or whatever, I'd be more concerned maybe with Kennard holding up. This Lakers team, I think he's gonna be able to play, and they're gonna need him to play. I think Kennard and Tillman are gonna play a lot and be really, really important in this series, both of them.
I think it's a great point about this being a matchup where hopefully Kennard doesn't get hunted too much, because the Lakers depend on their offense, LeBron and AD, and they don't really have maybe if you're Darvin Ham, you're like Lonnie Walker. I'm gonna play Lonnie Walker now.
Right.
Go just score on Luke Kennard. Because like you said, like if we advance and we're playing the Warriors or the Kings, we're gonna have flashbacks. For me, it's like, Jordan Poole, anytime he's in the game and Luke Kennard's in the game, Jordan Poole's gonna go get a bucket and he's gonna score constantly. This is shades of Jordan Clarkson against Grayson Allen in the Jazz series a few years ago, where it's guys, we can't play Grayson Allen. Like, Jordan Clarkson's averaging 30 a game. If you want to get upset, look at Desmond Bane's shooting percentages in that Jazz series. He was awesome and barely played. I do take comfort in that, and the fact that the Lakers are going to have just tons of trouble stopping the Grizzlies. One, they're Bane and Morant in the backcourt, and also they're not going to be able to attack Kennard's weakness, and they don't have particular length from their guards. Like, I don't think he's going to be bothered. This is another thing where the problem with playing Ja and Bane and Kennard together is on defense, we can't bother other shooters. Luckily, the Lakers aren't good at shooting, so I like all that.
I also, if this series goes 6 or 7 games, I think it's fairly, if not likely, that's a good chance of that.
Good chance.
If this is a long series, I like the Grizzlies, and even though their depth is what it could be with the injuries they've had, I like the Grizzlies in terms of a long series, in terms of the fatigue factor, the potential for injury relative to LeBron and Davis versus the Grizzlies stars, and the fact that Taylor Jenkins has done this before and Darvin Ham has not. And you saw last season, Grizzlies lose game 1 against Minnesota, and they worked their way to a victory in a long series by figuring stuff out. I think the Grizzlies have more of an ability to figure stuff out, and I think the fatigue issues, which as you get later in the series is going to be a little bit less rest between games. These first 2 games, just like the 2 games, all that stuff. Your joke you made on Twitter, which we laughed about on radio, me and Jeff, about they consulted LeBron's medical team on the rest. Maybe they did.
Yeah.
But as you get into games, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that becomes less of a thing. And so I think, if it ends up being a long series, I think the Lakers only win in a long series, and they may well win in a long series, but they only win in a long series. I think some of those fatigue issues and some of those coaching issues become a little bit more in Grizzlies' favor.
Yeah. Just thinking back to what you said early in this episode about how when you mentioned the Timberwolves series again, I was reminded, like it is good to not, maybe be overwhelming favorites against the Lakers, just as a fan, to be like, all right, we're in a spot where it's good to have some people doubting you, because I remember last year against the Timberwolves, that series was misery, just misery. Oh. Every single game was like, we're going to lose to the Timberwolves. Like we're coming off this 56 win season and we're going to get upset as the 2 seed. And it was always just relief. Like, oh my gosh, we won. But that was miserable.
It was a wild series because the Grizzlies won in 6, not 7. They won in 6, but they played from behind the entire series to win.
I mean, you can spin that series so many funny ways. Yeah. You're like, the Grizzlies won in 6, and the 2 games the Timberwolves won, they barely won. Whatever.
And not that I'm trying to prep people or whatever, but I think there's a very good chance that like the Lakers take one of these first 2 games in Memphis, and that it's a split in the first 2. Are we gonna do the Memorial lose game 1 at home? The Taylor Jenkins? I don't know. I'm just saying there's a good chance of that. There's a decent chance that happens. Yeah. And to me, that is not a death knell for the Grizzlies. To me, I look at that and I say this is a 6 or 7 game series if that happens. Yeah.
I agree. You mentioned thinking Xavier Tillman's going to play a lot. I think Xavier Tillman's going to play a lot. I don't think they're going to screw around with like a Luke Kennard starting lineup. I think you have to start.
Oh, 100%.
You have to start the traditional Tillman in the place of Adams. I was wondering, I'm curious what you think about this.
Tillman's going to play 30+ minutes in this series.
That's what I think. And do you agree? My idea is Tillman just going to mirror Anthony Davis's minutes? Like almost always, if he comes out, all right, now we can try some small ball. Or smaller ball, but
I think you will see them in spots, and maybe they wait till late.
Yeah,
go with the small lineup with Davis on the floor. But
what is the small? You mean the Kennard with like Brooks at the 4?
Yes. I think you will see that with Davis on the floor at times of this series, but I think they will be judicious about deploying that.
Here's a question that maybe you have a better grasp on, being closer and more plugged in. Are there any Aldama injury concerns? This is something I don't know anything about.
He's wearing a compression sleeve on he injured that elbow next to last game or whatever game it was. I mean, I think the long layoff is good for him there. He's wearing the compression sleeve. Taylor Jenkins said he's good to go. And so whether that's going to impact his play, we'll have to wait and see. But there's no sense that he's not going to be available.
Yeah. I mean, my thought is, yes, I think Tillman is going to have the yeoman's task of being the one on AD most of the time, but I do like our Jaren and Aldama front court pairing. And I think it's a strength of the Grizzlies, especially if they try to pack the paint in more, if that's the Lakers' decision on defense to go under everything. And like, if you have Jaren and Santi, like 4-5, and then everybody else on the perimeter for the Grizzlies should be able to shoot just fine. I think that could be an advantage for the Grizz.
Well, I mean, Aldama and Roddy, and I would even say Conchar, because he did nothing last year in the playoffs.
Yeah,
those are 3 players who have proven nothing in playoff basketball.
Oh, agreed.
And the Grizzlies are looking at a 7-man rotation if you do not include those.
Yeah,
and I think you get to a point in the playoffs where you're playing a 7-man rotation. That happens, but you don't, because over the course of the playoffs, it's sort of partly an exercise in throwing stuff overboard, right, to keep the ship from sinking. And you're throwing cargo over and just to stay afloat. You don't want to be doing that in game 1. Yeah. You don't want to get into a game 1 and say, oh, well, I guess we can't play Roddy. And so to me, that's a real mystery. That's another concern for the Grizzlies. They need at least one of those 2 guys, I think, Roddy and Aldama, to be able to give them good minutes.
My thought is, even though he's unproven, I don't think you can shorten the rotation to exclude Aldama. Like,
no, I agree.
Like Aldama has to play
from the jump. I'm saying over the course of the playoffs, you do what you're forced to do. But you're planning to play Aldama.
Yeah. Let's talk about maybe some of that rotation. We'll do it after this short break. Students, cheer on your Memphis Grizzlies with us at FedEx Forum. Don't miss limited Big River Steel student playoff ticket pricing for the Big River Steel Edge, providing you with affordable tickets to experience every towel-waving moment of the 2023 playoffs, presented by Orion and your Mid-South Ford dealers. Sign up today to get alerts about this exclusive ticket deal at grizzlies.com/students. So, Chris, I listened to your podcast with Drew, the Daily Memphian Grizzlies podcast. It was before the season was over. And you were talking about how Konchar's strong game against the Bucks and playing way more minutes than Roddy did, wondering if that was, maybe going to be what they went with in the playoffs. And I said on my Grizzlies preview 2 episodes ago that if I was the coach, I think I would pick Konchar over Roddy because I think Konchar is such a superior rebounder, and maybe we won't need the more offensive threat. I think I don't think
the numbers this season support that. I feel like I haven't looked at it lately. I feel like Konchar's supernatural rebounding ability did not carry over to this season as much as it has in the past.
The cleaning the glass numbers for rebound percentage, Konchar still crushes them on offensive rebounding and defensive rebounding. And again, like the only exception I would make would be we need Roddy's strength and size because he's gonna probably have to guard LeBron, and I don't want to see Konchar guarding LeBron once.
I think your instinct as a coach, most coaches, your instinct in that choice is going to be to go to Konchar.
Okay.
Because he's the veteran, because, but Roddy, up until that game, it had been trending the other way. I had been tracking over the last 3 weeks of the season. I'd been tracking game by game the Roddy Konchar minutes. I was very curious about that. And I wrote about that at one point. It was like of the last 12 games, Roddy's played more than 10 out of 12, right?
Yeah.
Some of those, it was 23 minutes to 21, so it wasn't big differences. But Roddy had been playing more. And when Dylan Brooks missed his game for the technical suspension, they started Roddy. They did not start Konchar.
Yep.
So it seemed like it had gone the other way. But when Konchar both played more and played very well in that Milwaukee game, and that Milwaukee game, to me, in a lot of ways, felt like a little bit of a test run. That's where they started the small lineup, to me, with the knowledge of, we're going to use this in the playoffs. Let's get a long look at it here. And so I don't know what they're going to, when they roll maybe they'll play both. Maybe he'll play a 9-man rotation. In fact, I bet he probably does. I bet they both get in the game in the first half in game 1 against the Lakers.
Well, that'd be 10, right? So we got Tyus, Kennard, Aldama off the bench. That's our 8-man rotation. So
that would be 10. No, you're right.
I don't think he's going to play both. I think
you're right. You're right. He's not going to play both. And so, I don't know. I guess I would bet Konchar right now for first shot.
That's kind of how
Seniority.
I feel too, especially if they can steal the minutes when LeBron's on the bench. If it isn't, I mean, honestly, in the Lakers play-in game, they had a truly garbage lineup on the court.
Well,
to start
that's
the
a good
quarters.
point. If they do have foul issues that alter their rotation with Brooks or Jackson, to me, that's an opening for Roddy, because even though he's a rookie and you don't relish him in some of those matchups, physically, he's better equipped for that. If you have to throw somebody on LeBron and your choice is John Konchar or Roddy for 3 minutes, I think you're going with Roddy in that choice. Yeah.
So what are I
think Tillman is going to spend some time on LeBron.
Yeah, I think so too. I've also said that, where when Dylan's not guarding him, if AD's out, we're definitely going to see.
Because you've seen them in some of these late games guarding Kawhi, right?
Yeah,
to me, that was also a little bit of a test drive.
Yeah. I haven't read your preview yet. What are can you share with us maybe what are some takeaways? What are maybe some key stats or areas of confidence and or concern you have for this matchup?
Dude, I don't remember any of this stuff. So So we talked about some of it. We talked about so not everything is purely matchup oriented. I talk about sort of John, Jaren, both in the spotlight, and this sort of be a big series for them.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of winning and losing, but in terms of sort of how you conceive their careers, right? The fouls and the free throw stuff. We all know this, but it's still worth saying, and we're pointing out. The Lakers are near the top, if not at the top, in generating free throws.
Yeah.
Their free throw rate, their free throw differential, I think, is the best in the league. But more hyper specifically, LeBron and Davis are both top 25 in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. Jaren, who I think is second, and Dylan, who's 11th, are two of the most foul-prone players in the game. And on one level, the Grizzlies, I think, are well positioned to guard the Lakers because their two best defenders essentially play the same position as the Lakers, the two scorers they really depend on. And so that is a good matchup situation for the Grizzlies, unless the foul stuff disrupts that, which it might in a major way. I think the rebounding, the defensive rebounding for the Grizzlies against Davis, and whether that gets mitigated by the 3-point shooting. The whole, to me, it flips the script. The Grizzlies used to be, we're going to lose on threes, we're going to win on the boards.
Right.
And now it's sort of gone the other way around. And the other thing I wonder about is like just how real the Lakers defense is and whether if the Grizzlies' best defenders essentially play the same positions as the Lakers' best scorers, it's not true the other way around. And so I think this is a big Jaren Shaw series. It's a big Bane series. And I think Bane, who's flying under the radar a little bit, even for me and what I wrote, like highlighting, John Jaren in terms of what it means for them, I think Bane could be the difference maker in this series.
Yeah. I agree with all that. And honestly, that's like my initial thought was like, I have my concerns about our Grizzlies team. I'm still very scarred by just like one random Bulls second half where we were playing our best players and we were like the worst team I've ever, we lost the half by 36. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, this is, I don't know. Maybe I went into that to be like, we're actually playing a team that's trying to make the playoffs and is going to be in the play-in, and it's a road game and we're terrible on the road. So let's see what we can do.
Well,
and then it was like, oh my goodness. And so
that
like
Bulls team
that really scarred me.
That Bulls team was playing well late and they had something to play for. And we just saw them go into Miami and win. I think there's a good chance they're going to, oh no, they went into it. Where did they win? They went somewhere and won.
They won. They beat Toronto. The Raptors behind
they went in Toronto and,
screaming.
Yes, they are the hero. They went in Toronto and won. I think there's a good chance they go into Miami and win.
I'm just saying maybe I attach too much weight to this because I'm like, we've been playing garbage teams. We never get a chance to like actually match up with the team on the road who's okay. And it was another like second half collapse. And so maybe I'm overly scarred by that game. But I agree with all the stuff you said. Like they don't have the guys to guard our best players outside of Jaren. Like AD can guard Jaren, but like Bane and Morant should eat. And like I feel like we match up pretty well. In what ways, this is not logical or correct. In what ways, Chris, does the Grizzlies' own playoff history affect your feelings or predictions? Because I got to say, it sways mine heavily.
Oh, really? It doesn't really sway mine at all. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this has nothing to do with my prediction.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see. I'm interested in like the sort of Grizzlies playoff history from a more of a fan perspective and like NBA fan perspective of they've never played the Lakers before. And so you check it off the list, right?
Yeah.
Here, let's see if you can do this real quick. What are the 4 Western teams that never played in the playoffs now? Now that the Lakers are checked off the list, there's 4 left.
Like there's only 4 teams that haven't played in the playoffs?
In the West.
Oh, but right.
Well, they've never been to the finals. Yeah.
They haven't played the Kings.
Yep. Could get that in the second round.
They haven't played no, they have. Let's see. They've played the Mavericks. They played the Suns. We've played the Trailblazers. We played the Warriors. We've played the Clippers. We haven't played a version of, why am I so bad at this?
All right. So the Kings, which they could get in the second round.
Right.
The Nuggets, they could get in the conference finals.
Yeah.
The Pelicans and the Rockets.
There you go.
So I like a new matchup.
I
like new jerseys to see in a playoff game on, in FedEx Forum.
The funniest thing
about that has no bearing on my predictions.
The Grizzlies Suns series, I have no memories whatsoever, and I don't know why. I like there's a chance I was like maybe traveling outside of the country back then, or like that specific series, but like I remember every playoff series the Grizzlies ever played, and I know. I mean, like I've looked at the box scores and stats, and I've been like, I don't remember any of these games. So like maybe I was traveling or something.
That was the third one, right? Mavs was the second, and the Suns was the third. I think that's right.
That's another great question.
It was Spurs first in that first 3 years. So Spurs first because
I think it was middle. I think it was Spurs. Yeah, yes. Is that what you said? Spurs, Suns, and then
I thought it was Spurs. I thought it was Mavs.
I don't remember.
Maybe it was Mavs late. I think it was Mavs. Maybe it must have been Mavs late because I remember Chucky Atkins in that series.
I was in Australia for the Mavs series. I watched those games at like
they were short-lived. They were short-lived.
No, here's the way that my 20-year Grizzlies fandom affects the playoff thought is every year we were good. Like the grit and grind era were pretty good. We would have like, a great playoff run, man. If things just went one bounce here, if OJ Mayo hadn't fouled out in double overtime against the Thunder, and then it's like whoever it was, we were like the Mavs won the title that year. We were so close, or whatever. Like we were so close, one bounce. And then we have like the Warriors, the 2013 one where it's like, oh man, if Mike Conley doesn't break his face and Tony Allen doesn't pull his hamstring, we're just a couple breaks away. But it always goes, my history was we were really good. Then the follow-up season, big letdown. We lose in the first round. 7-game series, like we lost to the Clippers in 7, we lost to the Thunder in 7. And it's always been like an every other year thing. And now I'm looking at last year. I'm like, man, If Ja doesn't get hurt, if Bane isn't banged up
Right.
against the Warriors, if Dylan isn't suspended, if Steven Adams is playing. But we're now in the year after, and it feels like, and the regular season felt like a year after, where it's like, oh man, we're dealing with all these injuries. We're having some bad injury luck. And so because of that, my history of Grizzlies fandom, I'm now like, I'm less confident, even though it makes no sense and nothing is related to anything.
Couple of different thoughts, but both are related. Both you bring to mind. In terms of Grizzlies playoff history, if they beat the Lakers, they will do something that has never been done in franchise history,
just win,
which is advanced 2 years in a row.
Right. Yeah.
There's never been consecutive years of playoff advancement.
Right.
So if they do that, they will break new ground. Even if they lose in the second round again as the 2 seed, which would be, underperforming your seed, that will be a kind of step forward for the franchise history, because the Grizzlies have never advanced 2 years in a row. So there's that. There's an opportunity here, to your point. This could be another one of those years, unless the Suns are a total juggernaut, which they may be. Right. It's possible. But unless that happens, whoever doesn't break through, they'll look up and say, well, we could have broken through this year, because that's the way the West is. Yeah. And one of the points I made, I didn't use this phrasing, although one of my coworkers slacked me and said, I'm glad you said the Grizzlies were a weak 2 seed. I didn't use the phrase they're a weak 2 seed, but I illustrated that they are a weak 2 seed.
Yes.
And 51 wins, I think it's a 622 winning percentage. I happened to be on the ESPN tab. So ESPN page, their tabs go back 20 years. I didn't go back any further than that. 20 years is enough to illustrate the point. The Grizzlies at 51 wins, 622 winning percentage, record-wise is the weakest West 2 seed of the past 20 years.
Yes.
They led the Western Conference in point differential at plus 3.9. That is the weakest leading point differential in the Western Conference of the last 20 years. They're a weak 2 seed. Denver's a weak 1 seed. Kings are probably a weak 3 seed. It's a weird West, man. It's flat in terms of quality and separation. And so, so the point being that they're very capable of losing, including in the first round. They're also very capable of going on a deep run. I think this West, unless the Suns are just a juggernaut, almost anything could happen in this West.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, there's other years, where the Grizzlies, they won 50 games or so in the regular season, and they were the 6th seed, and they were, I
think they were the 4 or 5 seed one year where they won 56.
Yeah, there was that. I believe the year the Hawks won 60 games, the year that every Hawks starter was the player of the month, the Hawks would have finished 4th in the Southwest Division. Like, it was like the Spurs, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies all had 56 wins and up. The Pelicans might have had like 50 that year, or 48 or something. It was like the Hawks would have lost so many games if they played in a different division.
I think if Cleveland, which is the 4 seed in the East, had played in the West all season, Cleveland would be the 1 seed in the West.
I don't know if I agree, but I like the premise of the thought. I think that's fair to say. Let's wrap up. I'll say that I've been waffling. I'm picking the Grizzlies, although I have a lot of concerns. It's more that I think that the Lakers are I think the Lakers are less impressive than I think the Grizzlies are less impressive. And I'm with you where, like, I don't think we're a strong 2 seed. Like, we're not even a 51 win team still in my mind, because we don't have Steven Adams. So we're less than a 51 win team. So I think it's going to be a close series. I worry about the Grizzlies losing leads late. I worry about them making 10 threes in the first half, getting up 15, and then it all fritters away. I think I'm going like Grizzlies in 6 or 7. You can change from what you even put in your column, Chris. I don't care.
Yeah, and so I sort of think of it as the range, the reasonable range, right?
Yeah.
And to me, on one end, it's Grizzlies in 5. That's the best case scenario for the Grizzlies, is Grizzlies in 5.
Yeah.
I think the best case scenario for the Lakers is Lakers in 6.
Okay.
And so my initial prediction was going to be Grizzlies in 6. And then I thought, this team's going to close out a series on the road, really? So I changed it to Grizzlies in 7. I think the Grizzlies have a higher upside in the series. If somebody wins in like 5 games, it's going to be the Grizzlies to me, not the Lakers. But I think the Grizzlies are winning the series unless the Anthony Davis dominate the boards, get your guys in foul trouble thing is a major factor in multiple games. And you know what? It might be a major factor in multiple games.
Well, so the problem with the Grizzlies, where it's like, I think, and this is obvious, and I think everyone's correctly pointing this out, even if it angers and upsets Grizzlies fans, like, if Jaren is not on the court,
it's
bad.
Yes.
Just period. And like I feel like best case scenario, Jaren's going to be off the court for 10 minutes every game. So
yeah, well, at least, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably,
best case scenario.
Right.
We only played 10 minutes without Jaren every game.
Well, this is why, while Jaren may be the most important player in the series, Tillman is really, really important. Like Xavier Tillman, who was not even in the rotation until like Steven Adams or Brandon Clark got hurt, is enormously important for the Grizzlies in this series.
No margin of error.
Yeah.
Like there's no margin of error in the Grizzlies front court. And that part of it makes me like all the stuff we talk about matchups wise, always all the stuff we talk about where the stats the Grizzlies have an advantage. That's all true, except for the fact if Jaren only plays 30 minutes or less, it's going to be quite hard. I feel like for the Grizzlies to win the series. And I keep coming back to that. And
I think it is a problem. My hope, I think it is, it's just frankly, it will be a problem.
Yeah.
My hope is that it is not a problem that decimates things.
Right.
And that Ja and Dez go off in this series. I think Ja and Dez can go off in this.
Yeah, I agree. And Kenneth Alton Jr. is not going to play.
Mop-up duty, but hopefully we get some positive mop-up duty, but otherwise I don't see him out there.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks so much for coming on. Always a pleasure talking. Everybody go check out Chris's stuff and Drew's stuff over at the Daily Memphian and listen to the Daily Memphian podcast. And Chris will, looks like we're going to see each other in person.
We're going to hang out in Memphis. We'll hang out in Los Angeles.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, buddy.